How's it going, everybody? I'm here today with Jack Bezlyk, who's the founder and creative director of Cowtown Creative. How's it going, Jack?
Not too bad.
Not
Thanks
too
for
bad.
having me, man.
Yeah, I know we talked a little bit before the recording started, but I just want to point out to everybody, Jack's sick setup in the background that he's got there with the lights and everything. Um, so I'm just gonna start right here. You've held consulting and project coordination positions in construction, manufacturing, and similar fields. What made you decide to jump from those into the gaming industry by founding Cowtown? I know you're still working. You're working with Cowtown and construction. You spoke about that, but what made you decide to step into to games?
Yeah. I've always loved games. Growing up, I always had wanted to write for games specifically. Um, and leaving high school, I listened to a lot of outside influence and took maybe a safer route and ended up going to school for business administration and management, because everybody says, oh, you can always get a job with a business degree. It's the safe route. So I ended up doing that, and I wound up in a lot of manufacturing roles and health and safety roles and lots of project coordination roles in manufacturing and construction because that's uh, the prevalent industries that we have here in Wisconsin and central Wisconsin. So just naturally, I fell into those positions and kind of grew in those industries for a couple of years. And finally, I was like, yeah, I, I had been writing that whole time. I'd been working on smaller games. I just wanted to get back into and try my hand at getting into the games industry.
Yeah.
The problem is the industry is not exactly great for people who transition from a different industry or juniors, or really anybody at this point. So
Just gotta put in the work for it.
yes, yes.
Um, you know, how has your consulting and project coordination experience, we talked about that a bit, contributed to your studio's development?
um, it's helped a lot because of the transferable skills between um, some of my certifications in project management and just being able to deal with lots of different types of people and contractors, different schedules and timelines. No matter what industry you're in or whatever project you're running, there's always tons and tons of moving parts. And just having a lot of experience in, manufacturing and construction, and all the work that gets done in projects like that, just transferred so well to starting a company with now 20 plus people, and running a studio that way. So a lot of transferable things between running meetings, making sure deadlines are getting hit, projecting far, far out into the future to make sure that we are staying on track with development of the games. So yeah.
Yeah. Just like a lot of coordination, making sure everything's staying on the timeline.
Yeah, and a lot of like, check-ins and one-on-ones just to make sure everybody's marching in the right direction, whether we're working on, a widget in this factory or, a large road construction project or a video game, you're
Yeah.
always like checking in just like make sure that everybody's getting what they need done.
Is your studio remote, or I know you guys are Wisconsin based, but are you remote for the time being, or how's that operate?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We're all remote, but I would say about 70% of us are from the Midwest area.
Mhm.
And then the other 30% are remote in other parts of the states and even um, in other countries. So
Working remote, can that kind of like get in the way of certain things, like staying on track of certain projects or anything that you're working on, or can that be challenging, or you guys getting along fine working remote?
yeah, it can be difficult. The I guess the biggest thing that I can think of off the top of my head where it poses the biggest issue is just like scheduling weekly meetings or times for everybody to get together, right? Because if you have, two team members in California and you know, one in Poland and, the rest of us in, the Midwest, you're trying to find a balance of like, hey, we need everybody together, but everybody's working a job or doing something else. And we have limited time in the evening to gather. And then there's like a 6 hour gap in between everybody. So it's
Yeah,
hard to rally everybody in meetings. Yeah.
I'm always curious to know that because I volunteered for indie game studio for a little bit, and that was something that was hard about being remote is that you know everybody's meeting for something and I'm at work and I just can't do it. So it always, it is what it is. But you mentioned 70% of your members are in Wisconsin, and some of your members recently visited Game Sound Con and MDev. How do you feel that visiting these events will help your studio in the long run?
Yeah, it anytime, you can visit those conferences or, developers meetings or meetups or anything like that where you actually get to meet people in real life,
Mhm.
is fantastic because it builds camaraderie. And you actually get to put a face to the, you know, or I guess a body to the face of the person that you've been working with
Yeah.
for many months, and kind of get to learn a lot more about them in person, and of course talk to industry professionals and whatnot. But recently, myself and some of my other team members, we had met at MDev, and it
Mhm.
was just kind of like a cool like, yo, you look like this, and you look like this. You sound different, outside of a Discord call. And we caught up and learned a little bit about each other, and then actually what that did was just kind of strengthen the bond that we already had, throughout development, and it kind of just added more glue to the team, if that makes sense. Because
Definitely
I'm on more of
does.
a personal level. Yeah.
You guys, are you excited about, being in Wisconsin? I've noticed recently that there's been a big, not uptick, but almost like not rise either, but almost revolution, if that makes sense. You got the Wisconsin Game Alliance. Ben Qualo, he founded Midwest Games like a year and a half
Awesome guy.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you excited about the future of Wisconsin and games and kind of your place in it? This wasn't something I had. This was just what I thought of as we were talking. But how do you feel about Wisconsin's place in games?
Yeah. I feel very strong. Wisconsin's so much untapped potential in the Midwest, and Wisconsin, that I don't think people get a fair shot, and they don't have they have less opportunities, than maybe the coasts, or any of your larger cities. But there's some fantastic game development universities here. There's lots of arts, and there's writers here, and there's just so much untapped potential in the Midwest in general, that these folks don't really get a fair shake at getting into the industry. Um, and like you said, we're seeing like tons of indie studios pop up, and Midwest Games, publishing companies pop up, and all these events. So it's really inspiring, to see that growth where I call home, right?
Mhm. Awesome. Um, Looking at you guys' site, Catan Creative, uh, you don't just develop games, you guys say that you're developing films, books, music, and more. How would you describe your studio's place, not just in games, but in relation to the entertainment industry as a whole, if that makes sense?
Yeah. We kind of see ourselves as developers of worlds, and universes, as opposed to just one form of media. I believe there's so much more value and inclusiveness in developing, universes and stories that can be told in different forms of media, whether that be, games, short films, music, books. We want to bring everybody into these worlds that we're creating and these stories that we're creating. So that's kind of why when we go to work on a project, we think like, okay, like how can this be expanded, right? If I wanted to, get my friend into say our Redwater universe that we're developing. But he doesn't play games. He's an avid reader. Well, I'm gonna recommend him, the book, or the soundtrack that he might enjoy, and maybe he'll get hooked and come into the universe that way. So really, we just want to share all of our universes, our worlds with people through different forms of media. We don't want to narrow ourselves too much.
You mentioned Redwater, which is your guys' first project that you're working on, which is a game. But you mentioned a book. Are you guys writing a book or planning on writing a book to tie into Redwater, or what's the process with that?
Yes, actually, the idea surrounding Redwater before the game started as a novelization
Mhm.
um, that I'd been writing for several years. That kind of spawned the game development side of things. The Redwater game really has taken precedence and became like the main Redwater thing or project. But there is plans to have a novelized version of Redwater to pair with the game. So that is the plan right now.
Awesome. I'm a big reader, so I'll read that when it
Perfect. I'll send you
releases.
a copy. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So, my next question. So, your first project, Redwater, which we've already spoken about. You're even wearing the hat. I didn't know you guys
Yeah.
had the hats
Yeah.
already.
This
Uh,
is an old logo, so we got a new logo
yeah.
now. This is retro. Yeah.
Okay. So, it's an open world mystery game, an open world FPS mystery game, based in the Midwest. You know, but your studio is Midwest based. You said 70% of your workers are in the Midwest. How have your guys' roots and experiences in the Midwest kind of inspired aspects of Redwater?
Yeah, there's a lot of us that have a strong knowledge of the area, obviously the Midwest. So a lot of us knew what it's like to grow up here, and we know the trees and the environment and how the people speak, and all these cultures that have made the Midwest and Wisconsin specifically what it is.
Hmm.
So that helps us speed up the development a little bit, I guess, quicker because there's less guesswork when you've lived here for 20 plus years and you know how everything operates. So that has helped. Um, Although I would say we still have some work to do with getting the rest of our team members kind of on board with the full vision. It has helped us quite a bit.
Awesome. And sorry about that lag.
Yeah,
I'm
no
sure
worries.
you're,
Yeah.
I have two roommates, so, you know, um, this is something that excited me when I was reading about the game on your website. Red Water's graphic style is said to be reminiscent of sixth generation consoles, specifically the PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 is my favorite console of all time. I love the PlayStation 2. I love the library. I let your team settle on the that kind of art style or pick that era for the game's art style.
Yeah, there's probably two main reasons. The first one is just speed, right? We're able to develop things a lot quicker when it's not high fidelity, insane, ultra realistic, unreal graphics, right? We just
Yeah.
don't have the budget for that. We don't have the time for it. Not saying that it's not difficult, but we can cut the timeline by quite a bit by choosing the more PS2 era art style. And the second is because that early 2000s, almost Silent Hill, Resident Evil era was so beautiful, beautifully paired with the games of that era and the stories that were told, especially horror. Everything had a weird, like gray, brownish tinge to it. It almost made the atmosphere better, and it added to the game world. So we are really trying to add that into Redwater, the game, and kind of marry the two and make enhance the feeling and enhance the spookiness, if you will. Um,
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I think with older horror games, like the fact that the art style, the graphics like not like hyper realistic. So I think in my opinion it kind of adds on to it because you got like an abstract looking monster. It's like what the hell is that?
yeah,
But
it's terrifying. Yeah.
going to Silent Hill 2, that's one of my favorite games of all time, and I've probably mentioned it in like four or five of these interviews I've done.
Yeah.
But something that I think is awesome about Silent Hill 2 is the fog. I'm pretty sure you know how foggy the game is. I'm pretty sure the
Yep.
fog was put in there because of graphical limitations, but it ended up just becoming like an iconic
Yeah, it's a feature.
staple.
Yeah.
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 So, Redwater, like I mentioned earlier, it's like a mystery game. Um, and it's said to have side cases that act like side quests, and you've got like a main story that's like a main quest. Obviously, you know it, but I'm just explaining it for the audiences. So there's like the main story that's your main case that you're working, and then you've got side cases. Do the side cases affect the main case at all? What are some mechanics that you can share about it, if you can? When I was thinking about it, I was kind of thinking about like I don't know if you've played Alan Wake 2, but there's a very similar mechanic with
Yes.
like the forensic files and stuff like that.
Yeah, huge fan of Alan Wake 2. That game is a freaking masterpiece. Remedy always knocks it out of the park. Um, yeah, so we've taken a lot of inspiration from Alan Wake 2. Um, at this point, those side quests aren't set up to alter the main story in any way. Um, they mainly just act as a way to give curious players a little bit more deeper look into the world of Redwater and its surrounding areas. Those that want to play, uh, in the world longer than just speedrunning the story or just running through the story, it gives them more opportunities to meet new characters and solve a couple more mysteries along the way. Um,
Awesome.
so as of right now, we're not really sure how the mechanics will all meld together and introduce those side quests. We have a couple ideas we're prototyping. Can't really share too much about it, but it does take a lot of inspiration from Wake 2's yeah, like side quest or case file system. So
Awesome. I love Alan Wake 2. I love Baldur's Gate 3 as well, but I think Alan Wake 2 was my game of the year for
I
2023.
agree. That's a snub.
Yeah. Um, so my next you already answered my next question, which was if the side cases impacted the main story. But the game is also said to be like a FPS, have a FPS combat system. So how are you balancing kind of the forensic based sections with FPS or combat sections? Can people expect more combat or more forensic style stuff, or is it just kind of a balance of both?
Yeah, that's a great question actually. The flow is pretty well thought out. That was probably the first thing that we really talked about intensively was like, okay, how can you go from like these really brutal first person combat scenarios and then just go into a detective mode where you're investigating and a forensic mode where you're trying to find clues and everything kind of slows down to a point where the player can think. Um, I think we've gotten to a point where the flow is good, or at least we have a plan for how that will work. I would say a majority of the game will be moving from location that you explore, very visceral first person combat as you move through these more open levels or more open point of interests. You'll kind of fight your way through, get to a certain point where you're prompted to use your forensic tools and investigate a little bit more. And then it kind of just cycles you back to, finding a new location. And now you've been with your clues, now you've been directed to a new location to explore. So you kind of traverse your way there, fight your way through, um, and then get to another forensic location where you continue to explore and progress the story that way. So it's a pretty good cycle between intense combat, forensic, intense combat, new exploration of a new area. And then it kind of cycles back through that flow. And it's a little more complex than that, but on the surface, that's really what it will be. And that
Awesome.
combat is very heavily inspired by Condemned Criminal Origins,
Oh,
which
okay.
I think to this day still has fantastic first person melee combat. If you haven't had a chance to play it, I highly recommend it. It still holds up as a fantastic horror gem from the 360 era.
I haven't played it, but I know of it. I don't know if it was there's multiple Condemned games, right? It's not
There
just
are,
condemned
yeah,
criminal. I remember when I was a kid, there's one where the case, like the box art, is like a guy looking through a
libel.
peephole,
Yeah.
and it used to scare the shit out of me when I was a little kid. I used to be terrified
Yeah.
of it, just the
Yeah.
cover alone.
Seeing a GameStop, like, oh man, I can't pick that
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Um. So your your to be determined date or release date for Red Water is 2026. How are you guys, I guess, preparing for the release date and how are you feeling about where the project is on your
Feeling pretty confident. My estimation right now is the tail end of 2026. We don't have anything nailed down that we want to, announce yet. We do plan on having a playable demo available before launch so that, players can kind of get their hands on it, uh, play the mechanics, play through the first chapter of the story, and then kind of go from there, see if they actually like it and want to continue finding out the mysteries of Redwater. But as of right now, I think the production is moving along quite well. We've had a couple hiccups probably in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but I would say we've got it pretty much straightened out now. And usually, when things go wrong and we hit a roadblock, everybody is very eager to really just tackle the problem. Everybody kind of just all hands on deck. Who needs to take care of what to make sure that we can get to the bottom of this to keep things moving along.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the game. But you know, and I'm not trying to pry anything out of you about like the release, what day are you releasing the game but we already talked about the novel, but does your studio have any plans uh for after Redwater's release? Like do you have any other ideas for projects, or are you going to keep expanding the Redwater, I guess, IP? And you don't have to explain it, but I was just wondering if you guys were had any ideas for what you're doing after.
Yeah, we actually do have two projects that are in pre-production, I would say. They're a little bit smaller and they're completely separate IPs. But those will probably hit production or full production in the next couple of months. So those will be developed under our studio branch throughout the duration as well. So we have those two projects. I would like to see the Redwater IP continue on. If it does well, if it catches on, people like it. I would say that we would be in a position to do maybe an expansion or two, or maybe even some kind of spinoff. But if it does well and we really have fun working on it and releasing it, yeah, I could see the team continuing the Redwater IP.
Awesome. We're gonna jump to some of my activity questions. Are you familiar with the blind rankings and stuff that I do?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So before we do those, what's your favorite game of all time?
Favorite game of all time is Fallout New Vegas. I
Really?
got a poster down here. Yeah, Fallout New Vegas is my favorite game of all time. Yeah.
You're really quick to it, man. Usually people are like, "Oh, that's super hard. I'm gonna have to think on
Yeah.
that," but you
Yeah.
came prepared.
I got a couple others that like might touch the toes of New Vegas, but New
Yeah.
Vegas is on a whole nother level. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, have you beaten it more than one time? I'm assuming you have. How many times have
Yes.
you?
Yeah. Multiple times on Xbox 360 when I was younger, and a couple times since then on PC.
Yeah.
So
Was it your first Fallout, or had you played any Fallouts before?
I played Fallout 3 on a whim. I rented it
Oh,
and I
really?
played it when I was a kid, or a young teenager, and I didn't really like it. I didn't like Fallout 3 that much. And I had also rented New Vegas. So I put New Vegas in probably after 4 or 5 hours of Fallout 3. And I played through New Vegas. I loved it. And then I went back to 3. No hate on 3, but I
Yeah.
went back and finished. Yeah.
Did you get it from like a red box or something like that?
So some like family video.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the first blind ranking here. So you're gonna blind rank these video game bosses based on how much you'd like them as your supervisor at work.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Um, So first up is Bowser.
Okay, so we doing, is this one through
1 through 5. So like
one through
one's
five?
like I'd love him as a boss. 5 is this is gonna be the worst boss imaginable.
Okay, okay. I would put Bowser as a maybe a two. I'd put him
2?
as a two.
Okay. Bowser is a 2. Psycho Mantis.
From
Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid. Okay.
Yeah, he's the guy where like he'll read your memory card and be like,
Yeah, yeah,
"You've been playing Crash Bandicoot" or something
yeah.
like that.
He's a helicopter supervisor. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I would put him as probably a three.
3.
Yeah.
So, all right. Then you've got Ganondorf.
Probably probably four.
4.
Yeah.
This guy's tried to destroy the world like 20 times.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be great for the office. All right. Um, then you've got Handsome Jack.
Ooh, that's a good one. I would put him at one. I
1.
feel like I could get along with Handsome Jack.
He's a charismatic guy.
Yeah, I feel like I could get along with him. And he's got a
Yeah.
good name. I mean, we could bond over the name. Yeah.
Yeah. The Jacks.
Yeah,
Jack and
yeah,
Jack.
yeah.
All
Jack's
right.
the office, yeah.
Your next, so your number 5, I think this is pretty good for number 5, is Alduin from
Okay.
Skyrim.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Um,
pretty good. I think I nailed it.
yeah. So yeah, Handsome Jack, Bowser, Psycho Mantis, Ganondorf, and Alduin. I think this is actually one of the better blind rankings I've ever
Okay.
had. Um, so now you are going to blind rank these video game characters based on how likely you'd be okay with them as your babysitter for your kid.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Um, so your first step is Donkey Kong.
Ooh. Uh probably four.
4?
Yeah, yeah. Too much smashing, too much throwing things.
Yeah. Your next step character is the Joker, and not from Persona 5, like Batman, like Arkham Joker.
Like Arkham Joker,
Yeah.
like deranged, criminally deranged Joker.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Um, yeah, we're gonna have to go with the five.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not thinking I'm leaving my boy with the prom Joker.
Yeah. Next is Kirby.
Oh yeah, well actually this whole swallowing thing, the eating thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I got? What do I got listed?
You
Three,
got
three.
1, 2, 3. You got 1, 2, and 3. Those are
Okay,
your open
put
spots.
Kirby at three. Yeah,
3?
yeah.
Okay. So next,
I would have said higher, but I just the swallowing, the eating thing is just not. Yeah.
yeah, no, you're
Yeah.
uh Trevor from GTA.
Oh God, I wanted to uh take my chances here. I actually, you know what? I feel like he could have a touch of compassion. He could
Do you
have he
really
could have
you think so?
he could have a moral compass when it comes to kids, maybe like little kids, maybe, hopefully. Let's put him at two. Let's put him at two.
Good choice, man. Your number 1 is Isabella from Animal Crossing,
That's a
or
good one.
Isabel.
It's a good
So
win right there.
Isabel, Trevor, Kirby, Donkey Kong, the Joker. Um,
Trevor's
honestly,
might Trevor might be dangerously high, I
yeah,
think.
if you if you switched Trevor and Kirby, I think it would have been a pretty good list. But those are the 2 blind rankings. So we're just about done here. I've got one last question for you before we head off. And is there anything you'd like to add before we head off? Anything else?
Um, yeah, I do want to just shout out the awesome games communities that we have popping up everywhere. Um, Cave Bear Games, Cowtown Creative is a member of the Cave Bear Games partner program, along with many indie studios. Um, they are fantastic. Ayla and the whole team over there, they're doing some fantastic things, connecting all the right people, inspiring juniors, and anybody in the industry really. Um, So if you can get involved in indie development groups like that, if you can network and just get involved, um, that's the best way to get into the industry. I know it's kind of restated over and over, but connections are everything. And the second thing I want to say is if you want to start something and you want to work in games, just start building games. Just start writing for games. Just start covering games, right? Start making videos on games. Don't wait for anybody to give you the green light, right? Don't wait for that perfect job to pop up, and don't wait for somebody to ask you to join a team. Like, go build your own thing. Go find other people that share the same interests as you, right? Want to build something similar to the game you have in mind. That's how Cowtown Creative started. So myself and many others were just not going to wait around anymore for the industry and things to pop up. So we said, screw it, let's do our own thing. So I guess where I'm headed with that is, hopefully that inspires other people to continue to build their own studios, build their own games. We don't have to feed into this industry dilemma. We can ride this out together, and we can come out on top. So, um, indie revolution, baby.
Indie Revolution. Super well said. Thank you so much, Jack. It was awesome having you again, everybody. This was Jack Belzlik, or Bezlik. I'm sorry. From Cowtown Creative, founder and creative director. Thanks, Jack. I hope you have a good night, and it was super awesome to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me,
Oh,
man.
no problem.